I'm Marcus, 29, and I never thought I'd be writing something like this. Until recently, I believed I was building a life with Eliza, 27, the woman I thought was my forever. Now I'm wondering how I missed the warning signs that were there all along. Eliza and I met at a charity gala through a work colleague. She had this effortless charisma, a sharp wit, and a directness that pulled me in immediately. I'd had relationships before, but the connection with Eliza felt different, like finding a missing piece I hadn't realized was gone. After dating for 10 months, moving in together seemed natural. Our futures aligned perfectly, similar career ambitions, shared dreams of family, and matching timelines. I worked as an architectural engineer while Eliza ran her photography business from our apartment. Our rhythms complemented each other, and our life together was comfortable, if not extravagant. After 3 years together, I knew she was the one. I proposed during a weekend trip to a mountain cabin. Nothing elaborate, just us by the fireplace with a view of snow-capped peaks. Eliza cried, threw her arms around me, and said yes with such conviction that any doubts I might have had evaporated instantly. That night, we began dreaming aloud about our spring wedding at this perfect riverside venue we'd visited months earlier. The guest list would be intimate, and the decorations simple but elegant. Everything was falling into place, or so I thought. Looking back, I can pinpoint when things began changing. The transformation was subtle at first, so gradual that it was easy to dismiss. Eliza's enthusiasm for wedding planning waned after the initial excitement. During the first few weeks, she bombarded me with inspiration photos, venue ideas, and even sample menus. She'd ask my opinion on everything from napkin colors to flower arrangements. Then suddenly, the questions stopped coming. Whenever I'd ask about wedding details, have you thought about who you want as bridesmaids? Or, should we book that band we liked? Her responses became increasingly vague. I haven't decided yet. There's still plenty of time, she'd say with a dismissive wave. The same pattern emerged with her dress, the cake, and the honeymoon destination. Decisions we'd once approached with excitement had become burdens she seemed eager to postpone. I convinced myself it was just stress. Her business was picking up, and wedding planning can be overwhelming. I told myself she'd regain her enthusiasm eventually. What I failed to realize was that her hesitation wasn't about the wedding itself. It was about us. The moment everything changed happened during a dinner party with friends. Someone suggested playing a trending social media game where you answer personal questions with complete honesty. Everything was lighthearted until someone asked, if you could relive one relationship from your past, which would it be? Without hesitation, Eliza replied, probably Jordan. The name hung in the air like smoke. Jordan? Her college boyfriend, who had cheated on her repeatedly. The one who had left her heartbroken? The room fell silent. Eliza laughed nervously, attempting to backpedal. I mean, not that I'd want to be with him again. It was just a formative experience. I wanted to confront her right there, but I waited until we were alone. Why Jordan? I asked later that night. Of all people, why would you want to revisit that relationship? She shrugged as if my concern was absurd. It was just a silly game, Marcus. Don't read too much into it. She changed the subject, and I dropped it, not wanting to fight over something that seemed trivial. But the comment lingered in my mind, a small crack in the foundation I thought was solid. After that night, other changes became impossible to ignore. Eliza was constantly on her phone, smiling at messages I couldn't see. She began canceling our plans last minute with flimsy excuses. I need to edit these photos tonight, she'd say, or my sister asked me to come over. Each excuse seemed plausible on its own, but together they formed a pattern. I was no longer her priority. Then came the Thursday that changed everything. I arrived home early, hoping to surprise Eliza with takeout from her favorite restaurant and a night of binge-watching that show we'd been meaning to start. The atmosphere felt wrong the moment I walked in. Eliza sat on our sectional sofa, laptop open but clearly not working. She was staring at the screen, lost in thought. Hey, I'm home, I said quietly, trying to gauge her mood. You're early, she replied, sounding almost disappointed. I tried to ignore the sting and headed to the kitchen to unpack dinner, but the tension in our apartment was palpable. Usually, we'd exchange stories about our day, but tonight there was only silence. Finally, I turned to her. Is everything okay? She closed her laptop slowly and met my eyes. Actually, there's something I need to talk to you about. My stomach clenched. You know that primal instinct when you sense danger? That feeling washed over me as I stood there holding a container of pad thai, completely unprepared for what was coming. I set the food down and sat across from her. All right, what's going on? She paused, seemingly gathering courage, then just blurted it out. I've been thinking about us and about Jordan. I think I need some time to figure things out. I nearly laughed from disbelief. Jordan? Seriously? What about him? She looked away, unable to meet my gaze. I think I need some space to sort through my feelings. I want to take a break and see if there's still something there with him. My world tilted on its axis. You want to take a break from our engagement to date your ex? Are you hearing yourself, Eliza? We're engaged. It's not like that, she said quickly, defensively. I just need to know if I'm making the right choice with you. And if it doesn't work out, I promise I'll come back. That's when I realized the staggering audacity of what she was proposing. She genuinely expected me to wait patiently while she explored options, as if I were a fallback plan, a safety net. I didn't explode or storm out. Instead, I sat there studying her face, wondering how I'd missed this selfishness before. So what exactly does this break mean for you? I asked, my voice surprisingly steady. She straightened slightly, clearly relieved I hadn't immediately refused. I think we need some space apart. I'll take some time to see if my feelings for Jordan are real, and you can use the time to reflect on us, too. The absurdity of her suggestion hit me full force. Wait, I said, leaning forward. You're saying you need to date your ex, but I need to sit around contemplating our relationship? What kind of twisted logic is that? Eliza sighed as if I were being difficult. It's not that you did anything wrong, Marcus. This is about me figuring out what I need. The rehearsed quality of her words, the way she wouldn't look me directly in the eyes. Everything suggested she'd already made her decision and was simply seeking my permission to pursue it. You realize this sounds insane, right? I said quietly. You don't put your fiancé on hold while you test drive someone who treated you terribly. Her expression hardened, revealing a stubbornness I'd somehow never fully registered before. I'm not asking for permission, Marcus. I'm telling you what I need. That sentence hit differently. The sadness transformed into anger that burned through me. I stood up and began pacing, trying to process her words. So what, Eliza? You're just going to pack a bag and head to Jordan's place? Is that your grand plan? No, she insisted. It's not like that. I don't know what it looks like yet, but I need clarity before moving forward. I owe it to myself to know I'm making the right decision. You owe it to yourself? I laughed without humor. And what about what you owe me? Eliza, we're engaged. We're supposed to be building a life together, and now you're telling me you need to test out your ex to make sure I'm good enough? I never said you weren't good enough, she countered, her voice rising. But if we're going to spend our lives together, I need to be certain. And right now, I'm not. That was it. The final blow. She wasn't just curious about Jordan, she was uncertain about me. After 3 years together, all our plans, all our promises, she still wasn't sure. It suddenly became crystal clear that she didn't understand how hurtful and insulting her request truly was. She honestly thought it reasonable for me to wait quietly while she worked through whatever ridiculous notion was captivating her mind. I stopped pacing and looked at her directly. You know what? Fine. Fine, she repeated, seemingly surprised by my quick agreement. Take your break, I said flatly. She blinked, clearly thrown by my lack of resistance. Marcus, I'm not trying to hurt you. I just need space to figure things out. I nodded, expression blank. All right, if that's what you need. She hesitated, as if expecting me to argue or fight for her. When I didn't, she stood up, clutched her laptop to her chest, and murmured, I'll stay at my parents' for a while. This won't be forever. We'll talk when I have some clarity. Sure, I replied simply. She looked at me uncertainly, then disappeared into our bedroom where I could hear her pulling things from drawers and closets, packing a bag. I remained on the couch, outwardly calm, but my mind was already racing ahead. If she truly needed a break, she could have it. But on my terms, not hers. Minutes later, I heard the front door close as she left, probably assuming I'd be waiting right here when she returned, ready to pick up wherever she decided to leave us. She had no idea what I was about to set in motion. She could have her exploration, but I had plans of my own. This wasn't going to end the way she expected. First, I called my best friend Alex. I've known him since high school, and he's always been brutally honest, exactly what I needed. After listening to the full story, he came over with beer and pizza, and we spent the night planning my next steps. You know she's going to try crawling back when things inevitably crash with Jordan, Alex pointed out. He was right, of course, and the more we talked, the clearer it became that I needed to take decisive action. This wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming control of my life. I started with the condo. Something Eliza conveniently forgot was that it was solely in my name. She loved acting like it was our place, always talking about the decor she chose and the kitchen renovation she planned, despite the fact that I was the one making the mortgage payments. Monday morning, I called a realtor and we listed the property immediately. The market in our neighborhood was hot, and we had multiple interested buyers within days. Eliza had no clue. She probably imagined me sitting in our shared space, waiting for her to sort out her feelings. The second phase was systematically removing her presence from my life. Those live, laugh, love canvases she insisted on hanging? Donated. The collection of decorative pillows that made sitting on the couch a challenge? Given away. The clothes and personal items she'd left behind? I carefully boxed everything up, but with strategic flair. Instead of simply dropping her belongings at her parents' house or asking her to retrieve them, I hired a moving company that delivered everything to her parents' doorstep with a simple note. Your belongings. Good luck with Jordan. Some might call it petty. I call it efficient. She wanted space to think things through. I was giving it to her, quite literally. The most interesting part was when mutual friends inevitably started asking questions. Rather than playing victim or bad-mouthing her, I simply told the unvarnished truth. Eliza felt she needed to explore things with her ex before committing to marriage. I decided I deserved better than being someone's backup plan. You should see people's reactions to that. No drama, no accusations, just facts. It's remarkable how quickly perception shifts when you don't try to control the narrative. I also made career moves, applying for a position at our company's Seattle office that I'd been considering for months. If the condo sold, which seemed likely, and I landed this job, I'd be starting fresh across the country. Eliza tried reaching out multiple times that week. First with casual texts like, "Hope you're doing okay," then progressing to increasingly anxious messages once she realized I was actually making changes rather than merely waiting. She panicked when her mother informed her about the boxes. "What are you doing? Why are you acting like this is over?" My response was straightforward. "Because it is over, Eliza. You made your choice, and now I'm making mine." She began crying, saying she just needed time to think things through, that I was being hasty, that this wasn't what she meant by taking a break. "What did you expect?" I asked. "That I'd wait here like a loyal dog while you explored your ex? That's not how this works." "But what if I realize you're the one I want?" she sobbed. "Then you'll have learned a valuable lesson about not taking people for granted," I replied before ending the call. The strangest thing was that I no longer felt devastated. I felt liberated. Every box I packed, every decision I made felt like reclaiming pieces of myself I hadn't realized I'd surrendered. Alex came by again to help me pack and noticed the change. "You seem different," he observed. "More focused." He was right. When Eliza first mentioned exploring things with Jordan, I felt my world collapsing. Now I understood it wasn't my world falling apart. It was the illusion I'd been living in finally disintegrating. Sometimes the best response to being treated as an option is to remove yourself entirely from the list of possibilities. Things moved quickly after that. I got the Seattle job, and the timing couldn't have been more perfect. The condo went under contract with closing scheduled for the following month. What was particularly fascinating was watching Eliza's Jordan exploration unravel. Through mutual connections, I learned their rekindled romance wasn't the fairy tale she'd envisioned. Apparently, 3 years hadn't changed him much. He was still the same unreliable guy who'd hurt her in college. Eliza tried controlling the narrative on social media, posting vague inspirational quotes about self-discovery and following your heart. So I played the same game, but with honesty. Life update. I've accepted a position in Seattle. Sometimes when one door closes, another opens. Looking forward to this new chapter. People congratulated me, asked about the move, and inevitably questioned what happened with Eliza. I kept my responses simple. We're no longer together. She wanted to explore other options, so I'm doing the same. This triggered a fascinating chain reaction in our social circle. Those who were uncertain about the situation completely shifted their perspective after watching me handle everything with dignity, while Eliza posted cryptic relationship quotes. Maya, a colleague who often referred clients to Eliza's photography business, invited me for coffee. I need to know what happened, she said bluntly. Eliza's telling people you're on a temporary break to grow individually, but something feels off. I showed Maya the note about Eliza wanting to date Jordan, and her expression said everything. By week's end, several of Eliza's potential clients had postponed their bookings, not because I sabotaged her, but because word spreads, especially in creative circles where reputation and reliability matter. Eliza sensed the shift, and her messages became more frequent and agitated. Why are you telling people about Jordan? You're damaging my reputation. This isn't fair. I just needed time to think. I responded only to the last point. You got what you wanted, time and space. How I spend mine is no longer your concern. The turning point came when Jordan, demonstrating his remarkable judgment, posted a photo of them together at the bistro where Eliza and I had our first date. She was clearly trying to recreate our history with him, which was both sad and comical. The post didn't last long, but the damage was done. Our friends saw it, and anyone still believing Eliza's "finding myself" narrative quickly lost sympathy. Even her own brother contacted me. I'm really sorry about how she's handling this. You deserve better. The most satisfying part? I didn't have to be vindictive. I simply lived my life honestly and openly, while Eliza tried playing both sides. Truth has a way of emerging. She showed up at my office unexpectedly last week. Apparently, Jordan had already revealed his true colors, flirting with other women, being unreliable, a predictable pattern. I made a terrible mistake, she wept. I was afraid of commitment. I thought I needed to know if there was something better out there, but I was wrong. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. I looked at her calmly. No, Eliza. The best thing that ever happened to me was when you showed your true colors before we got married. She tried arguing that we could fix it, that she would go to therapy, that she could prove herself trustworthy again. I simply shook my head. You don't understand, do you? This isn't about Jordan anymore. This is about you thinking you could keep me as a backup while you explored your options. That's not love. That's convenience. She left my office distraught, but I felt more certain than ever. The condo closes next week. Most of my belongings are packed, and my new life in Seattle begins in a month. Some people think I'm being too harsh. Everyone makes mistakes, they say. But this wasn't a mistake. It was a series of deliberate choices. Every text she sent Jordan, every lie about where she was, every moment spent planning to put our relationship on pause. These were all conscious decisions. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's getting better. And that's exactly what I'm doing. Seattle has exceeded all my expectations. My apartment overlooks Puget Sound, and on clear days, I can see Mount Rainier in the distance. The tech scene here is vibrant, my new team is innovative, and I'm surrounded by people who value ambition and creativity over drama. Before I tell you about my fresh start, let me finish the story of how things ended back home. The condo closing went smoothly, and it actually sold above asking price. Eliza's reaction when she discovered through mutual friends was priceless. She didn't believe I'd actually sold our place until she drove by and saw the new owners moving in. Here's where the story takes an interesting turn. Jordan, yes, that Jordan, actually reached out to me. He sent a long message explaining that he never meant to cause problems and that Eliza had approached him first, months before she asked for the break. She had been laying groundwork for her exploration for quite some time, messaging him for months. The irony? Jordan ended their rekindled relationship because, as he put it, if she could do this to you, she could do it to anyone. The professional consequences for Eliza have been significant. Most of her clients found other photographers, not because I said anything negative, but because word travels in professional circles. One of her biggest clients actually contacted me. We heard what happened with your engagement, they explained. We're looking for someone who can commit to long-term projects. Do you know any reliable photographers? I recommended a talented friend of mine who got the contract. Karma, I suppose. Eliza's social media meltdown was something to behold, starting with melancholy quotes about losing your soulmate, progressing to angry posts about toxic people who can't handle growth, and finally, desperate attempts to show everyone how happy she was. The latest was particularly interesting. She announced launching her own photography studio, yet 3 days later started sending out job applications. Her brother messaged me last week, saying Eliza has been staying with their parents and needs time to heal after our breakup. She really expected you to wait for her, he said. When you sold the condo and moved, her whole fantasy completely fell apart. The most validating moment came during a video call with our old friend group when someone mentioned seeing Eliza at a cafe, explaining to a potential client why her portfolio website was down. Apparently, she forgot that I was the one who set it up and maintained it. When the hosting subscription expired, she couldn't figure out how to restore it. No longer my responsibility. My new life is coming together beautifully. I've joined a local hiking club, started taking cooking classes, and even adopted a rescue dog, a gentle giant named Apollo who's better company than my ex-fiancée ever was. Last month, I was invited to speak at an industry conference, something that would never have happened had I stayed in my comfort zone. I had one final interaction with Eliza. She emailed demanding some old photos from our shared cloud storage, which I had already downloaded and canceled weeks ago. "I understand you're trying to erase me from your life," she wrote, "but you can't just delete our memories. Those 3 years meant something." My response was simple: "You're right. Those years taught me what I don't want in a partner. Thank you for the lesson." Some mutual friends think I've been too severe, that I should be more understanding of her moment of confusion. But it wasn't a moment. It was a calculated decision to keep me as a safety net while she pursued what she perceived as a better option. The most important lesson I've learned? Sometimes the worst things that happen to you lead to the best outcomes. If Eliza hadn't revealed her true character, I might have married her only to discover her real nature years later, possibly with children involved. Instead, I'm in a beautiful city with an exciting job, making new friends, and feeling optimistic about the future. The pain of betrayal has been replaced with gratitude for dodging a bullet. And for anyone going through a similar situation, remember this: when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Don't wait for them to change their mind about you. Life is too short to be anyone's backup plan. Sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away and build something better for yourself. This chapter of my life has officially closed, and I can't wait to see what comes next.